It is Thursday, and you know what that means, folks. It is time for some high school fantasy football here on MaxPreps.com. I'm Zack Poff, and the man to my left, the one and only Chris Stonebraker. I'm loving the goat, baby.
Thank you. It's Movember, so I still got to cut into the mustache, but, you know, I had to grow out the facial hair.
You know what I like even better? Is 156 to 154, 5 wins, 4 W's. Now, the GOAT can't help you there, partner.
The GOAT can. You know what I learned this week? It's the little things that count. The little things, like defense letting up a score in the fourth quarter. Yeah. Those little things at the end of the day all count up.
I know you got to be
and make me lose by 2 points.
You got to be a fan of the league. Garbage points and garbage time. Sometimes it comes back to bite you. But hey, before we get to our Week 10 lineups, let's take a look back at Week 9. And I'm going to start with my team because I was the winning squad. Yes, and my boy Tucker Israel. How about the game? He had 1,678 yards and 24 touchdowns in his last 3 games. And last week, he racked me up 66 points, 389 yards passing, and 7 TDs to go with 31 yards on the ground and another score. So far this year, Israel has thrown for 3,774 yards and 38 TDs. He's currently the 3rd leading passer in all of high school football. And also, I got to dish out some love to my boy from Texas, Justin Northwest, Emmanuel Moore. Over 100 yards and 3 TDs from my squad last week. He's having a big-time year. He's in the top 10 in the state of Texas in receiving yards and touchdown. Kid's doing work. Who were some guys that balled out for you? It was a very, you put up 154, so you guys were doing a little bit of work out there.
They did some work, I guess just not enough. But, of course, I got to talk about Austin Kafensis. No surprise here. 54 points. The QB from Jordan, Utah got me after scoring 5 total TDs, throwing for 389 yards and rushing for another 138. He is in the running for the National Player of the Year because of numbers like this: 3,678 yards passing, 1,758 yards rushing, and 63 total TDs this year alone, ladies and gentlemen. That is not his career.
63 TDs in a season?
In a season,
Woo.
yes. And then another standout for my team this past week was wide receiver from Lake Nona in Florida, Deondre Farrier, who, with this past week's performance, took over the top spot in the country for receiving yards with 1,625 total yards. And for me, he got me 36 points off of 3 TDs and 202 yards. And of course, you've seen that kind of output. Made you want to pick him up this week. So
we switched
congratulations.
It up. You took my QB from last week, so I was like, hey, I'm going to take your receiver.
I got to counter a little bit. Now, on my defensive side, Folsom, again, did an amazing job. Hats off to the defensive coordinators out there. Nick Payton, Cole, you guys did an awesome job. But they do not get turnovers. I mean,
they get W's, though. That's all they care about.
42 to 7.
They don't care about your fantasy
7
team.
points come in the fourth quarter. Every single time it's like a 3 and out. But they just don't get any turnovers. 185 yards total. That's all they gave up.
They only allowed 7 points. They did a lot of work.
I know, but I want them to get like an interception or a fumble. I would have won. I literally just won. Don't let the touchdown or get 1 interception. I take home a W.
I tell you what, let's see if I can get 2 wins in a row. Let's check out my Week 10 lineup. You see there, I've got Dalton, Sneed at quarterback and Grant's DeShawn Collins at running back. I'm going with Joseph De La Cruz from Farmersville, California. Kid is 7th in the nation receiving yards with nearly 1,500 yards. He also has 19 TDs. And I'm going with Deondre Farrier. You touched on him earlier. This kid's a stud. He's the #1 leading receiver in the country with 1,625 yards. He's had 3 consecutive 200-plus yard games and 3 TDs. I'm going with Dallas Skyline defense. They're 9-0 this year, #8 on the Excellent 25 rankings presented by the Army National Guard. And check out the 4-star linebacker Anthony Wooler this weekend. This kid's going to have a big game. The 6'2", 225-pound 4-star outside linebacker leads the way for that defense. All right, baby, let's check out my quarterback. I'm going with Horizons Dalton Sneed out in Scottsdale, Arizona. The 6'1", 185-pound UNLV commit is thrown for 3,000 yards plus this year to go along with 27 touchdowns. The kids posted back-to-back 300-yard games, and Sneed and Horizon start the playoffs this week, and they travel to Desert Ridge to take on the 5th seed in the D1 playoffs. And make sure and check out the D1 playoff show on MaxPreps.com featuring Dalton, Sneed, and the rest of the field in the Division I bracket. I think my guy Sneed's going to have a big-time game this week. And I'm leading with the 12 seed to pull off the upset here in the first round against number 5, Desert Ridge. And getting to my running back, I knew once I cut up this dude's highlights, I was picking him this week. And that's Grant's DeShawn Collins.
Pacers.
Hey, this kid is a baller. I mean, he's just like Shaq Thompson running the rock and Mr. Booker out for Utah. Devontae Booker, that is, 2 stud running backs from Grant, and DeShawn Collins going in that same path. And they're 9-0 this year, and a lot of that has to do with their stud junior running back, Collins. 1,485 yards on the ground this year to go along with 19 touchdowns. And check this out, Stoney. Dude has 7 straight games with at least 125 yards and 1 TD. My dude from Grant about to go 0 to 100 real quick on Friday night in a big-time matchup against 8-1 Jesuit. Stoney, who you rolling with this week?
Where they at, though?
Where they at, baby? Where they at,
Now,
baby?
my team, I hope we can get a 5th victory for me this week, because I then would probably win on total points, and then we'd go into playoffs, and you know, I would be on a
playoffs.
Playoffs. But anyways, you see right there, I do have Tucker Israel. You spoke about him earlier and grabbed Farrier, so I had to pick up Tucker to counter. Yeah, Tyler Fauver.
That reminds me of there's something about Mary.
That's exactly what you look at, and you're like, okay, Fauver. He's from Grandview, Texas, 2nd in the country in receiving yards with 1,564 yards. Also has 16 TDs and 91 total catches. On the defensive side, I went with St. Edward, and with Ohio starting playoffs, thought I would go with the high-ranked team in the first round.
Smart
I mean, they held St. Ignatius to 2.
Hey, Sean Crawford, Notre Dame commit, kid's a stud.
Yes, they held St. Ignatius to 10 points last week, and St. Ignatius is every year one of the top teams in all of Ohio, so they must be pretty good. But now, these next 2 athletes I'm counting on big. I mean, I'm counting on all my players because I need a 5th win, but these 2 I'm just highlighting with video. Running back Alex Grace of Swan Valley in Michigan is a Player of the Year candidate at the moment after rushing for 2,228 yards on the season, which includes, and I'm going to try to one-up you here from your running back with the 100 yards, 8 straight games with over 200 yards and 2 TDs. 218 times he has ran the ball this year. That is double the amount of passes the Vikings have thrown this year. Say 2/3 of the time they hand off to Grace, which is good for me.
So
and my
basically
team.
what you're saying is he's their whole offense.
Exactly. And my 5th player is wide receiver Jordan Genato of Terra in California. In 7 games on MaxPreps, he has averaged 186 yards per game, which is 2nd in the country for athletes with over 7 games in the system. He also has 13 TDs and 1,300 yards total receiving yards. Terra Nova is 3-5 this year and played 2-6 Menlo Atherton. This week in a game, Terra Nova needs to win to keep their chances alive for the playoffs. So I'm hoping that they go, we need to give the ball to our best player, and the best player is going to get the ball, and we can win.
And you know, NFL Network, they do this thing called bold predictions. I got a bold prediction. I think one of our teams is going to put up 200 points this week. I do. I believe it. One of us is going to put up 200 this week.
Put that on the wall. We need to get that on the wall.
It's got a better chance than Steve's Arizona's not making the playoffs.
Okay, yes it does.
All right, Stoney. Well, that is all the time we have this week on the High School Football Fantasy Show. Don't forget, 12 p.m. tomorrow. Go on your computers, MaxPreps.com, and check out the best high school football show in the country, some Friday Night Live. For Chris Stonebraker, I'm Zack Poff here on MaxPreps.com, America's source for high school sports.